Hey everybody, if you've got corals that look like this, or like this, then you want to carry on watching. Today we're going to talk about top 5 reasons your corals die. So, I've had my fair share of dead corals, and while I don't consider myself an expert by any means, I can certainly talk about the basics. So with corals and why they die, there's kind of like 2 tiers of this. I think there's the fundamental basics, which is what I'm going to talk about today, and then there's some real specifics that I'm nowhere near intelligent enough to take you through. Certainly not at this stage, maybe one day. So for the basics, there are a few things that we can look at, and a lot of people will dive straight into an ICP before testing some of the really simple ones. So I've created a little memorable acronym that will hopefully help you kind of check through some of these and save yourself a bit of money on an ICP, because you can test most of these at home. You should have test kits for most, if not all of these anyway. So the acronym is SNATCH SPAM. Hopefully you won't forget that, and it's salinity, nitrates, additives, as in dosing, temperature, calcium and pH, and then stupidity, phosphates, alkalinity and magnesium. I would say most of my failures are one of those. More often than I care to admit, probably stupidity as well. So working through the SNATCH SPAM acronym, starting off with salinity. Now you need to benchmark your salinity tester against multiple devices ideally to get to a point where you're happy that it's reading correctly, and then you want to aim for a salinity between 1.024 and 1.026 specific gravity, or 35 parts per thousand. Moving on then to nitrate, ideally somewhere kind of 15 parts per million. Certainly you want to be aiming for less than 25 parts per million and more than 5. For the additive side of it, just make sure that nothing crazy has happened. That was the cause of one of my biggest disasters, was just a lapse in concentration. You could put it under the stupidity bracket too, where I managed to situate the dosing lines in such a way that it siphoned out a load of Nopox into my sump. So check that nothing is untoward with your dosing side of things, that your nozzles aren't clogged up and that you're dosing in the right places and it's not a pipe popped off or anything like that. And then moving on, temperature, somewhere between 25 and 28, probably better at the lower end. There are benefits at the higher end, but there's lots of other things you need to consider as well. Then calcium, somewhere between 380 and 450. I tend to aim for around 220 or lower, slightly lower that is, just to try and avoid the tide line at the top of your water line that you can get left behind. pH, anywhere between 8.1 and 8.5 is fantastic. As long as you're above 7.6 and lower, you tend to start seeing some really negative effects on the corals. So yeah, 8.1 to 8.5 is ideal, but maybe not easy. So yeah, as long as it's above 7.6, you should be okay. Phosphates, a little bit of a contentious one here. I tend to aim for 0.1 or lower, ideally around 0.6, 0.06 should I say. But you can run higher phosphates without issue, as long as you've got the corals that can uptake it and that they're used to it and everything. You might struggle to acclimate from a low phosphate environment into a higher phosphate one, and obviously some corals like zoas don't care. Some SPS really wouldn't like that. Then alkalinity, 7.8 to 8. is tend to be where I am. That's kind of natural salt water. Now you can take your alkalinity a lot higher, but then it starts to get a little bit more complex. If you're going to run higher alkalinity, you probably want higher nutrients in there to support that, and established tank and growing well, etc. And magnesium, I tend to aim for about 1400, but anywhere between 1320 and 1500 is pretty good. So I think that only leaves stupidity, and probably this is the biggest factor. 9 times out of 10, if something's going wrong, you've probably done something wrong, or certainly it is in my case. I don't know if that's saying more about me, but yeah, just check to make sure you haven't just done something stupid. Well, hopefully this video has been helpful to you, and you've got to the bottom of maybe you were stupid like me, maybe you weren't, but hopefully that's helped you get to the bottom of what's been going wrong and why you've been losing some coral. If you found this useful, please give it a like. Think about subscribing if you've enjoyed the video. There's lots of other random stuff like this that I make. Have a look at the live streams as well. They're normally quite a good laugh. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in another video really soon.